Welcome to the Risk Rundown, our episode on replacement cost of luxury properties. So today we have our renowned Willy Hammond with us, who is our internal risk management loss mitigation expert. And of course, my co-host, Tyler Banks. Thank you for joining us.
Julie. This can be a good one.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Julie. Whatever I can do to help.
All right. So, Willy, we're going to do a little rapid fire question for you. What most people think versus what reality is. So, Tyler, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So, Willy, luxury features are just cosmetic.
False. I mean, there's a lot of different levels to that, but I will say luxury features, whether we talk in a very high-end theater room or whatever it is, even kitchen, custom cabinets, etc., are very expensive. Luxury features escalate the fastest when it comes to rebuild costs.
All right, next one. Most people think the purchase price reflects the real value of the property.
Sometimes true, sometimes false. Let's say that there's 100 acres added to the property, right? Now you're buying the land, so now the house is probably cheaper than you bought it for. But the other way, it is more common, where you pay $5 million and the replacement cost is $8 million because it has to account for everything inside the house. So I would say false.
All right, next one. We get this on the daily basis, Willy. Most people think insurance will cover it all.
And that one's not true at all. You have to be involved with your insurance policy, right? You need to look at the contents of your house. Everything escalates in costs, from the paintings to the carpet to the furniture, antique furniture, etc. And the replacement cost of the house just keeps going up.
So, Willy, back to insuring to value, right? What are some things our clients can do to make sure that they're insuring to value? Is there a common inspection period that clients should be doing it every 3 years, every 5 years? What do you recommend for our clients to make sure that they're properly insuring their properties and their assets to value?
Insurance, when it comes to the house, I mean, the biggest thing on some of our more high net worth clients is they're constantly remodeling the home, right? Whether they're updating the kitchen, whether they're adding a new theater room, whether the golf simulator, right now there's new technology, so we're making it better, we're making it nicer.
By the way, Tyler wants that. Tyler wants the golf simulator.
Making sure that your insurance agent knows, hey, I did redo my entire theater room and it cost an additional $200,000 or whatever the number is, right? If you truly don't do anything to the house, I think it's maybe a 3 to 5 year plan, to have it looked at. But then the other piece is, has there been any large catastrophic events that could affect my house in the area? Do I live in an area that is booming from a construction standpoint to where now costs of construction have gone way up? The biggest thing when it comes to contents, though, and I preach this one a lot, it's either have a professionally done or do it yourself with your phone, is take an inventory of your home. A lot of times people, they don't have it, right? They've never done a true inventory. They try to say that they're going to remember what's there. Walk through with your phone and just video and speak out loud. Hey, that's a table I bought, I inherited, and that's an antique, and this is the living room, and you can see it has a whatever, 2 couches, 3 chairs, a theater, whatever it is. Because when the claim happens and everything's gone, you're going to have a hard time remembering what you had. And the insurance company doesn't just write a blank check. If you have $1 million in contents coverage, you're not just getting $1 million check. They're going to say, I need you to prove that you had $1 million in there. Well, the picture's worth 1,000 words, right? A video. I mean, if they have extensive things, I recommend doing a professional inventory, and a company will come out with videos and cameras. They can document everything on a spreadsheet. They can break it down. Some things need to have appraisals, right? High end artwork and jewelry, you don't just go buy another one off the shelf. right? It was commissioned by somebody, or it's very rare. So, if they have a Picasso, we'll go to the top end of the spectrum here, and they pay whatever, let's say $1 million for it. But 20 years have gone by, and now the similar Picassos at auction are now, $5 million, $10 million. Well, now you're underinsured, or you're not insured to value at all. So you need to get a new appraisal done based upon market value. So some things are very fluctuating on market value, but my big piece when it comes to contents and inventory is, at the bare minimum, a video taken by yourself, walking through the home, opening drawers, showing what's in there. Part of it's for your own peace of mind. Part of it is when you have to explain something if there is a catastrophic event.
Just this morning, Willie, I sent you a client who was a little concerned with the increase in the value of the replacement cost of his home. He bought the home in 2016 for 1.6. He feels like he could rebuild it for 3.1, and the replacement cost from the carrier came back at 4.1. Why such a disconnect between what the client thinks he can rebuild it for versus what it's really going to cost to rebuild this home?
So this one has two problems, right? Number one, you have an owner builder, and an owner builder always thinks they can do things cheaper because they're not charging them. They can say that they're charging themselves a profit, but they're not. They're saying they're going to use the old plans. This house was, whatever that is, 30 years old. They're not going to use the old plans. The other problem is your example was Dallas. And Dallas and Texas in general is very is escalating quickly. And ever since COVID, when a lot of people left more expensive areas, especially lockdown areas, and California, they've moved to Texas. Construction costs in Texas have gone astronomical in the last 5 to 10 years. But when somebody hasn't moved in a long time, they still look at it as, my house costs 1.6. Now I could redo it for 3. Well, there's a lack of skilled labor in Texas because they're building everywhere. It all breaks down to a supply and demand issue.
I think that at one point when inflation was really high, and to your point, a market value of buying and selling a home is completely different than replacement cost value, right? And that's a conversation that, I know that all three of us have probably had on a continuous basis with many of our clients. That it's a difference, right? There's a big difference between market value and replacement cost value. For one, to your point, supply and demand on a market value, but also there's a lot of things that go into a replacement cost of a home that people don't think about, right? Oil prices, right, is a big thing, not only with the transportation of materials, but PVC piping and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then also other things that are happening across the world, right? So can you kind of talk about a little bit about that, about the supply and demand of the supplies?
If we have a hurricane in Florida or an approaching hurricane, especially a wild hurricane season where we have multiple storms kind of coming back to back, the cost of plywood goes up 25, 30, 40%. People are buying plywood as their windows blow out. What do they do to cover the hole in the house? They nail up a piece of plywood. So now the cost of plywood goes up, and it's hard to find. And you can't hardly source plywood in the Southeast because everybody's buying it. Petroleum products are in everything from plastic, from your window to your sink to everything. So when there's a war or something that causes the prices of petroleum to go way up, once again, you see home prices go up based on the availability of how petroleum is in a lot of different products.
So an article came out recently that said that about 75% of the people that lost their homes in the Eaton and Palisades fires were underinsured, meaning that there's a huge gap in rebuilding these homes after a catastrophic loss like this. So the issue of underinsurance and what clients should be aware of when it comes to underinsuring their home, and why doing an inspection on these homes is so important.
Well, and a lot of those houses, I will say a lot of those houses that were underinsured are more middle market carriers that don't do inspections. for one. Maybe nobody's done a replacement evaluation of the house, and all of a sudden it's way underinsured, right? And now they don't know what to do because they can't rebuild it. The higher value, the insurance carriers that are more for the high net worth homeowners, they do try to get out there and do these because they're trying to cut that off, right? They're trying to understand because they want to gather the premium based on the true value of the house. If the house is insured for 5, and it goes back to Julie's example that the true replacement cost is 8. So, I mean, underinsurance is a real problem. And unfortunately, people don't understand it until they have a claim, until there's a catastrophic event that causes it. So people should really evaluate their insurance yearly. I mean, part of this comes back to making sure you have a nice licensed agent broker that understands the market and understands how things work, and to read the policy and to understand, hey, do I have any buffer? Is there a 150%? Is there 125%? Do I only have exactly this amount? And can I rebuild my house for that?
There's a delicate balance between overpaying and underinsuring, right? I mean, that's what these clients' number one concern is. Like, I don't want to overpay for insurance, but also you don't want to underinsure it because in the event of a loss, that's where underinsurance really kind of, hits these clients in their pocketbook.
100%. And people, there's also myths out there, right? I'll never have to replace my foundation. That's one of them. And I still hear pushback on that. If you look at those Palisades houses after that fire, every one of those foundations it's ruined, right? And there's not an engineer alive that would say, you know what, that foundation's probably fine. The heat of the house was astronomical, and the foundation might be too old that now the building code doesn't stand up, so it has to be replaced anyways. But, so there's a lot of little things that might, nothing's going to happen to this and nothing's going to happen to that. Well, these bigger and bigger wildfires or the hurricanes where we're getting, huge storm surge that's just knocking houses completely down goes to show that everything has to be replaced. So you need to take a comprehensive look at what my house is and what would it truly cost to rebuild it.
That's why it's so important that these replacement cost evaluations should be part of our risk management strategy, right? And that is part of what us as an agent should be doing. Is there any other major things that clients should be thinking of in order to be able to mitigate the risk of something large happening, a catastrophic event happening to their home?
I'll touch a little more on the largest insurance claim and the claim that happens the most and the most expensive, a lot of times blindsides people, but it's water damage. It's domestic water too. And it's not flood damage. It's the water line to your toilet breaks, your sink line breaks, your ice maker breaks. That seems to be a very common one. And it never happens when you're standing next to it, right? It happens when you're away on vacation, and then the water flows for 2 days, 24 hours, whatever it is. And it's astronomical to see, because now it's destroyed the cabinets because everything got wet, the floor, it went through the floor and ruined your theater room in the basement, etc. So the water shutoff valve is a must-have for almost every carrier these days. And what it does is it senses water flowing and it turns the water off. So that way, from a huge claim, it becomes a relatively small claim. I can go down a rabbit hole on that one, Julie.
Well, we could go down that rabbit hole all day, Willy, but unfortunately, we're running out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we always have a wealth of knowledge leaving our conversations, and you are such a big, huge resource for not only our clients, but for us here at Alliant. So thank you so much for joining us. Tyler, it's always a joy to be your co-host. And so I just want to thank you both for joining our risk rundown. And as always, stay safe and stay protected. See you next time.
Resonate.